Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Auto Repair Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Walker, and my co host, as usual, today is Kim. And today we are beginning a series that we are doing on the topic of retention marketing. And our guests today are Greg Rainville from Steer and Chris Enright from Enright Automotive. But before we get into the podcast, I want to thank our sponsors at RepairPal for providing this episode. RepairPal is the key that unlocks more business for your repair shop. Learn more at repairpal.com/shops. Well, hey, Greg and Chris, how are y'all today?
Excellent. How are you guys doing? I just saw Chris a
Doing
couple
very
of
well.
days ago, so it's good to see him again.
Yeah, y'all were just at the Tools Conference, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Chris,
Awesome.
Chris had a badge that said he worked for you guys, Shop Marketing Pros.
Well, I mean, I'm excited about that, but I'm sorry, Chris.
It's okay. Hopefully, I brought you guys some more business.
All right. Well, hey guys, we appreciate y'all being on the podcast with us today as we begin our series on the topic of retention marketing. And when we're talking about retention marketing, it just makes sense for us to talk about CRMs. And we saw Chris post in the Auto Repair Marketing Mastermind Facebook group not too long ago about some of the things that he was going to be implementing with his CRM, and some of the different ways that you were going to use the segmenting and the data and all of that. And we'll get into that a little bit later in the podcast. But we know that Chris is a user of Steer, so it made sense for us to invite Greg on to be the guest along with Chris. So we really appreciate y'all being with us. I want to start off, Greg, could you kind of explain the role of a CRM in retention marketing for auto repair shops? And if there's a difference, between the way that auto repair shops would use it versus other industries, kind of what those differences might be.
Yeah, and sometimes I don't like calling it a CRM because I have people that come up to me, even like my family, they're like, "So you sell HubSpot or like Salesforce?" And I'm like, "No." I'm like, it's more of like the customer relationship marketing. So that's really what we focus on. I like to take it another step further and talk about customer communication. So that's really what the tool is. So I think a CRM in our space is talking about appointment reminders. So sending out appointment reminders. I always like to kind of talk about how the dentist does it so well. I usually get probably 4 or 5 appointment reminders from my dentist from text and email. I think that might overdo it, but I think that's a big piece in CRM today in the automotive space. I think the other piece that's a little different is Google reviews. So I think the best time you can ask for a Google review is after the customer leaves the shop. So I think that's another critical piece that's a little unique in our space is building Google reviews off of closed out tickets in the shop management system. Other than that, then you're layering in like oil change reminders, maintenance reminders, brake service reminders, text, email, postcards, and then slow day blasts. So what I think was really important in CRMs today is to be able to look at data, analyze the data, know where your trends are. So what months or what weeks of the year are typically slow for you, so you can start strategically building out those campaigns moving forward. So I think that's really what kind of makes up a really like full CRM. Um, and then you have decline services. There's some other stuff that layers into there, but I think if you're capturing all 5 or 6 of those features, your shop has a really good CRM in place.
Awesome. Chris, you started using a CRM a little while back in your business. What was it that caused you initially to implement a CRM in the business, and what have you found most beneficial about a CRM?
So what caused me to implement it is I couldn't keep up. Obviously, I'm a smaller shop, and I feel like it wouldn't be just smaller shops, because the busier shops could suffer from this as well, actually even more so. But just trying to keep up customer communication, and I was having issues with customers not showing up to appointments early on. And when you're a small shop, if you're getting people that no call, no show, well, then your schedule's opened up more and you have nothing to do for the day. And it's hard to bring somebody in, last minute like that. So those were some of the pain points that I was experiencing. So I did a few demos with CRMs, and that's how I ended up with Steer. So uh, that's some of the best benefits that I found is customer communication as well as appointment reminders. And like Greg was saying, uh, I like sending those. I don't send a bunch. Like he was saying, 5 is too much. I'm the same way. I don't like to overblast people, so I limit mine to a certain thing that I prefer, anyways.
Yeah, I think it's smart that we think like that, right? We tell people all the time, when you're looking at your own social media, for example, what causes you to slow down, to stop? What are you engaging with? And I think the same level of respect happens when it comes to those text messages and that sort of thing. And shop owners today that are not using these programs, it blows our minds. Brian and I often say, look, calm down, we're not opening a shop. But very often we're like, oh my gosh, do you know what we could do with a shop today if like we did not have all these capabilities when we had our shop? And it wasn't that long ago. I mean, we're talking about early 2000 to 2008, but it's just so smart and easy and effective. So
Yeah, our slow day plan at our shop involved picking up the phone and calling people that we had given previous estimates to, calling up the towing companies and saying, "Hey, we have immediate availability today," and things like that. Whereas you're able to go in, segment information, and send a text to hundreds or even thousands of people at once to let them know if you've got a issue with your car that you want to get taken care of, we can get it done today, right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So again, I think the best CRMs out there too have advanced filtering. So you can filter customers that haven't been in the shop for 5 months, 6 months to a year. Customers that on average spend over your average repair order. Customers that have specific deferred services. So really being able to go filter in where those customers are. So you're not just what I kind of call sometimes is spray and pray, just text everyone, email everybody, like very targeted messaging around like, okay, yeah, we know last time you were in 6 months ago, we recommended brakes. Have you taken care of your brakes? Like that like very customized, segmented message really speaks to customers and get them to speak up and actually come through the shop. So I think that's really, really important with the CRMs today to be able to filter like that.
now
So
we'll
you
say
talk about go ahead, Kim.
we did have email, but it wasn't the way that you're doing it today. There was no segmentation or anything like that. And funny little side note, which this is why I'm here. This is like my role in the podcast. Brian's the organized one with like the let's keep it on track. But we realized we were sending our email campaigns on Monday mornings. Very dumb. And it took us a couple of weeks to realize, our service advisor was like, what is happening? I cannot, keep in mind, this was 2005, 6, and we were sending these email campaigns on Mondays, and our service advisor was like, I cannot, somebody's got to help answer the phone. I cannot, I don't know. It's Monday morning. People are coming in from the weekend, and it took us a couple of weeks. We're like, why is it Monday morning? Like scratching our heads. And then we realized, oh my God, the email is going out. And of course people were saying, well, I just got your email. So anyways, my little Kim side note. Brian, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
So Greg, you talked about how the best CRMs, will have the filtering. I mean, when it comes to CRMs, it seems like, pretty much all of them are going to send out text messages, send out email blasts. It seems like some of them integrate with direct mail or have, their own direct mail built into it. Some of them don't. But what are those like main features? And then Chris, I would love to hear from you also about it, like, the features that you want to see. Like, what are those main features that you feel like a CRM should have? Like, these are the deal breakers. If you don't do this, then you're missing out on, a big piece of what a CRM can do for you.
I'd say the big one is like I just mentioned with the filter. So being able to filter a last visit, filter based off services that were performed and not performed, average visit value. Because again, you might not want to reach out to that customer if you are sending out specials that comes in and spends $20 every time they come in, or they're just taking advantage of all your specials. The other filter that's really important, that I don't think we talk about enough, is make sure you exclude customers that were just texted in the last 30 days. So that's something that we got tons of feedback on with our old mechanic advisor CRM. They're like, well, we just sent them a service reminder last week, and now we're going to send them a text about how we're running our summer special. So that's another filter that I think is critical, that a CRM should definitely have. Just so, again, going back to what we were just talking about, over communicating to customers can be bad sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris, what are your thoughts on that as someone who's using that CRM, day to day? Like, what are those features that you just have to have?
Appointment reminders is one for sure that I have to have. I love the Google reviews as well. That's a big one for me. And then the filters. I experienced exactly what Greg was talking about, where I would send out a text blast and I ended up filling the schedule with a bunch of cars and clients that I did not want to fill the schedule with. And so now I customize every single list when I send those text blasts out. And I like that I can do a static or dynamic list, so it changes. So if you want a dynamic list, it'll change as you add clients, or if you set static, it just sets the ones you have put in there, which is nice. So those for me are the most important. I mean, I went from I can't remember exactly, but it was somewhere in the 30 to 40 Google reviews, and now I'm well over 150. So and that's after I started with having a CRM. So.
I know we see on our end the difference every single time between that shop that has 30 Google reviews and the one that has 300 Google reviews. Is the one that has 300 Google reviews is using a CRM every single time. You just don't get that many Google reviews without asking people to do it in the CRM, and the automation that happens there to just ask them by default is an amazing way to do that. I mean, that in and of itself is worth the CRM.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Chris. One of the things that I've noticed, and we've looked at the data with shops with reviews, and we were actually tracking appointments coming through Reserve with Google. So that's something that's pretty cool that some of the software companies out there are offering now, is not only building the Google reviews, but turning on that Reserve with Google button. I know AutoOps has a great integration with that as well too, as well as Steer. But we're tracking the appointments coming through there, and the shops that have 400, 500 Google reviews are probably getting about 20 to 30 customers through that button a month, where I'm seeing the newer shops that might have 100 or less reviews maybe get about 5 to 10. So there's like that huge difference in, I think, customers coming through that Google page based on, and I'm sure a lot of it has to do with SEO and Google AdWords and stuff like that. But it's wild for me to actually look at that data and see the shop with the more Google reviews getting a lot more customers through that Reserve with Google button, and new customers, which is great.
Well, we talk about that idea of know, like, trust all the time. And
Right.
when somebody sees a shop that has, 400 reviews and they're, 4.5 stars, because let's face it, it's very rare that you're truly, 100% 5 stars. And when you are, people don't trust that.
Right.
But it's because, so instead of them seeing the Google business profile and then going to the website and researching the company and doing all of that, they're looking right there and saying 400 reviews at 4.5 stars. It's a good shop. Let me just book, without even having to go any further.
Yeah, I think the other piece too is like content with those reviews. So if I look at any business, I know my wife does it too. Before we go to any new restaurant in a city, we want to read the reviews too, right? Like the pizza is delicious or the service is unbelievable, not just 5-star, 5-star, 5-star. So I think that's the other piece that's really important with generating those reviews through a CRM is trying to get the customer to talk about their vehicle, their experience, because that content's gonna drive even more customers to the shop.
Yeah, I very often when we go somewhere, like I say a restaurant. I just did it Sunday night. We went to a restaurant and I always go look at the reviews to see what are people recommending and talking about. So I know like, oh, they like this dish or they don't like this or this is good or this isn't good. But you said a minute ago bringing in new customers. And what I love about what we're talking about today, like everybody wants new customers, right? That's a given. But I think probably one of the biggest mistakes that shop owners make today is they forget about what we're talking about today, which is the retention piece, the
Right.
loyalty piece, the bringing their customers back. And a friend of mine just posted, I don't know if you saw this, Noel Louvier posted recently, and he was talking to the females, which of course I was like, what's he talking about? But he was saying, female friends, what is your routine for how you are getting your car serviced? He was trying to find out like who's doing it in your family. And a lot of them were saying that's my husband's responsibility. I'll leave that to him. But there were a lot of women who were relying on being the indicator in the vehicle. But what if they were getting reminded by their own local shop? And I commented, of course, I take any opportunity I can. And I was like, well, what's your shop telling you? Is your shop reminding you? Because a really good shop is going to take ownership of the loyalty with you, and they're going to let you know when it's time for your service. And I had a couple people actually message me, and they were like, I never really thought about that, but it's this piece right here that we're talking about, and it's just like life is so busy. There's so much on everybody's minds, and we're going in 800 directions that when you reach out and say, hey, it looks like it's probably time for you to have service, uh, it's just a no-brainer for me. So, little female perspective, and a friend who commented or posted thought it was relevant to what we were talking about today.
I get comments all the time from clients, especially new clients that have never used me before, are always blown away by all of the systems and processes that I have in place. They're used to the handwritten invoice. They're used to everything basically being archaic. So when you send them a digital inspection, send them a digital estimate, send them a reminder for their appointment, ask them how everything's going after the appointment's done, like follow-up text, all of those things, they don't know what to do because they've never experienced it before. Like when I talk to my reps from the parts like the parts stores, when they come in, I ask them all these things because I'm always curious, like, hey, what are other shops doing? They say a ton of them are still, handwriting things, still doing things, the ancient way. So it's
And what
crazy.
message does that send when you go to even my hairstylist, right? You go to your hairstyle, a massage, the restaurant is doing online booking for reservations. You think about all of the people that you use in your life, and then you go to your repair shop who is taking care of your vehicle, and they feel like they're still living in 1970. Like that's not sending a good message.
No, and I always say this too. It's like I'll still do ride outs with reps with our partnership. So like Advanced Auto Parts and now with Mobile One, and typically I'm visiting 10 to 12 shops a day when I ride out with the cams or whoever I'm riding out with. So they'll plan out a day for us to go just stop into shops and talk about CRM, talk about reviews, marketing, and it's amazing. 10, 12 shops I walk into, 6 of them are unqualified. Like they were on paper or pen. And if I start bringing up a conversation about digital inspection, they're like, kind of like, get out of here. Like they're like, we've been doing this way for years. Like, how dare you disrupt my business? But it's just the way some of the mindset is with a lot of these shop owners that are out there. It's kind of eye opening for me.
So, everything that we're talking about when it comes to a CRM really is retention marketing, because the CRM is not communicating with people who are not in your database yet. But when we look at just what most people think of when we talk about retention marketing, we're talking about retaining the clients that you already have. And I think that people make this assumption that as long as they do a good job for their clients, that when it comes time for them to get their car repaired or serviced again, that they're just going to come back to them. And we live in a world now where so many different businesses are vying for the attention of your client. And as marketers, we've always been big on like email marketing and marketing in between those like service reminders and things like that. Because if you're only marketing to someone when they have a service that's due, you might only be marketing to them twice a year. I'm curious, if if Steer has done any research and has any idea of like what have y'all found to be that perfect interval to reach out to a client, to stay in front of them, to make sure that when it comes time that they need their vehicle service, that they're going to think of the shop that they have been using that's continually communicating with them?
So we've looked at the data every 3 months. So whether it's a service reminder, declined service reminder, or some sort of campaign to just say happy summer, happy holidays, whatever it is, every 3 months is a great touch point. And again, you can mix it up with text, postcard, email. I like text the best, but like mixing in some postcards a couple times a year could be one of those touch points. But every 3 months, keep that brand in front of the customer so that they don't go to the competitor around the corner. New customers now, I call it 5 touch points in the first 100 days. So it's the follow-up after the visit, the review request, decline service, and then a 90-day check-in. And there might be something that kind of blends in there. So maybe that's about 4. But I think that's really important for the new customer to look at it a little bit differently. But once you have that customer in, as long as you're getting that brand in front of them every three months, I think that's some good cadence to get them to hopefully stay loyal to your brand and your shop.
So I'm curious, Brian, can I ask a follow-up on that? So we're big about personalizing every level of messaging. I know that there are ready-to-go templates that's great for the shop that just needs to get it out super quick. I'm curious, have you seen a difference in the results from just the standard message as opposed to a more personalized?
I love when the shop owner puts their name in there. Hey, this is Chris. Just a reminder about your appointment tomorrow, or just following up on your recent visit, or who's ever customer facing at the shop who's working with the customers. One of the things that, again, going best practices CRM is to make sure you're texting from a local number. So it feels local, right? So you're not texting from a 1-800 number. You're not texting from one of those weird Uber numbers where it's like 1-4 digits. Like that just doesn't feel good. I think it's really important to keep it personal. So it goes back to personalization. I think it just creates a better customer experience. And Chris, I don't know if we did that with you at all. But every time I've done that with the shop, you see the response rates go through the roof, because I don't want to say you feel guilty, but sometimes when someone texts you directly, like you feel like you need to respond, right? So I think that gives you a better opportunity to get them through the door, but also just to interact with that customer, to get open feedback of, let me let them know. Let me let them know how my visit was.
Yeah. Love that.
Yep.
And Chris, if I remember right, and it's possible that I'm confusing this with another situation, but if I remember right, you found some interesting data when you were looking in your CRM as to like your return customers versus new customers. And I'm curious, as to what was that you that I'm thinking of, and if so, if you could kind of share that.
Yeah, so I was recording a video just talking about some of that data because I had never looked at it, sadly. I feel like that's one thing we do is we underutilize a lot of the programs that we have. And so I was just going through and I was down on returning customers. Like it wasn't very much. I think it was like 3.4% on return customers, but I was up, I think it was around like 14 or 17% on new customers. which was obviously really exciting to see. And so now I actually I'm looking at those data points more often. It makes the world of a difference. I was going to say, like, talking about customer retention, like my shop, is an outlier as far as the normal data points where most people want to find a shop within 7 miles. Maybe 10% of my clients are within 7 miles. I have some clients that drive over an hour to me. I have lots of clients that drive at least 20 to 30 minutes to me. That's probably where the bulk of my clients are coming from. So they have lots and lots of choices before they get to my shop. So the CRM is great, but I think you need a CRM plus a lot of other things in addition to that. So we've always done handwritten thank you cards. We've done like client gifts. We're really big on client gifts every single month. Obviously, the text from the CRMs, and we get to know our clients when they come in. It's more of like a relationship than anything else for me, anyways, to keep them around. Because, like you guys said, we assume that they're going to come back, but that's not always the case.
So this might take us off topic a little bit, but I know that people who are listening right now are curious when you say that you have people that drive an hour or people that are driving 20 or 30 miles to get to you. What is it that makes your shop the outlier that people are willing to do that?
I think it's me. I don't really have much of a better answer than that. I'm very honest. I'm very blunt about things. I don't beat around the bush. And most of those people are coming to me because they have either had a referral, somebody's told them, hey, go to him. He'll be honest with you. And I that's the only answer I have, to be quite honest.
Okay.
Well, I can't help but think that it's that you're also at a specialty shop, and
Yes.
your social media presence totally opens it up for people to easily get to know, like, and trust you, like we always talk about. And I can't help that. I mean, I know you're an what was the thing? Super influencer, somebody said, in the industry, but certainly that you know, falls over into the community with people seeing your online presence and trusting you. So I think all of that goes into you having that influence. I mean, honestly, it's an impact and brings people want to go. I mean, think Brian and I've talked about this before. We both have flown to specific doctors because they offered something special. There was something different about them and didn't rely on what was super close to us. But I mean, Brian's literally, I don't know that he wants to talk about it, doesn't really relate, but he's talking about going to a doctor very far away for something super specific because he's the expert. So,
Yeah. So, Greg, Chris was talking about the data that he was looking at in a CRM. How can shops measure the effectiveness of the CRM driven like marketing campaigns?
Yeah, so it's all about the attribution reporting, and that's a lot of feedback that we receive from our customers, and then even some of our marketing partners, where they really want to be able to dial in. Okay, how did this campaign perform for the shop? So, like, what do open rates look like? And then what is that attribution period? So something that we're working on is, okay, like some shops, they want an attribution period of a month and a half or 2 weeks. An attribution period, just so people know, is like, how do we attribute this campaign to being successful, right? So the customer read the text on June 4th, and then came in on June 10th, and they closed out a ticket in their shop management system for $1,000. So how far out do we want to go? So typically we do about 35 days, but like, what do your open rates look like? And again, just who are these customers coming in and how much are they spending? So like being able to look at those reports can really let you know what campaigns do well and what campaigns don't do well. So we do that for almost every single campaign that we send out, that there is an attribution report and you can look at that data. Some of the other stuff that we're doing is with Google, where we do have a way where you can somehow tag it through the scheduler, which you guys are the pros at this, Kim and Brian. But there is some tagging that we can do through the scheduler to really see the customers that are coming in from that specific campaign. So these are all things that you should be looking at whenever you're sending out any type of campaign. But specifically, if you are doing customer retention campaigns, you should have these reports at your fingertips, and you should be looking at them as a shop owner.
Yeah, I love seeing the various CRMs going further and further into attribution. We did an episode. Gosh, it's probably been a year or more ago now, but with Justin Ray from Cinch, and we were talking about attribution. And it used to be that the attribution of some of the products on the market was just terrible. I mean, you'd look at an email campaign, and it's like, oh, this says that we made $200,000 from this email campaign, and the way that attribution was being handled was just ridiculous. But we do see that attribution is getting better and better, and we love seeing the companies focus in on prioritizing that because it's important.
It's how you do your A/B testing, right? Especially if you have a couple locations, or you want to test out one message for a couple months and then test out another message in 2 months after that, see which one performed the best. Being able to have a CRM to go into those analytics and look at that data will tell you a story, and then A/B testing, go with the one that works best moving forward. It takes time to look at that data, but you have to be patient. But definitely test out different messaging. Like demographics are so different across the United States, where people up in New England talk a lot different than people down in the South or the Midwest or out in California. So it's for us as a CRM company, like, we shouldn't tell you how to message your customers. We can give you a template to work with, but you really need to find out the voice of your shop talking to who your customer is. So it's important to do that testing and look at those analytics in the background.
So that's a lot of learning, right? I'm
Yep.
curious, Chris or Greg, whoever that might be, is um, there's training that has to come along with this. So, like, Chris, how long did it take you once you started utilizing the CRM or the communication tool to really feel comfortable? Like you just said, Greg, you have to test some things. Like, talk to the shop owner who's listening, who either has a software that they're paying for it and they're not using it, or they've never used it and they need to get in. Like, we don't need to waste time or waste people's money. Like, really get in and use it right. Like, talk a little bit about the training aspect of it. You talked about patience, the getting familiar with it, really testing and using something. What does that first phase look like?
So I just basically signed up, then I did the demo and then started using it that way. And then I started looking at like how many texts were being sent out. And I was like, man, I feel like I'm over texting my clients. So I started backing it off a little bit. And then you can actually see who has sent you like it says text no or stop to, no longer receive text. And you can see how many people are doing that. And so I feel like, to look at that and understand, see where it's at. Nowadays, I feel like people are way more open to texting, and so they're much more, laid back about it than I feel like back in the day. But I would say you have to sign up and then do the demo. But after you've used it for a while, then do another demo, because I did a demo with Greg not too long ago, and I was like, man, there's just so many things I was not using. And I think it's good to get familiar with it yourself after you do the demo and kind of try some things out. Then maybe like 6 months down the road or something, sign up or, schedule another demo to refresh your mind. I took a teaching or a training class at one of the events, and I've taken it twice now. And the second time I learned so much more because I had much more experience in between there. And so I feel like that's part of it for sure.
It's really smart. It's like when you watch a movie and then you watch it the second time, you're like, I don't remember that part. I love that. Greg, do you want to add anything to it?
Yeah, no. I think Chris just nailed it right there. I think that's the best thing to do, and this is what we do a lot with our MSOs and enterprise clients. Is we're like, all right, let's pick 3 stores, focus in on that for like 3 months, 2 months, whatever it is, so we can get it dialed in and get everyone comfortable with it. So then we can basically copy it or replicate it across the other locations. The other thing, what I would strongly recommend to anyone who's listening to this podcast, is reach out to your CRM company. And they should proactively be reaching out month to month to like talk about the CRM and open up your eyes to maybe like new features and what's going on in the platform, but be a little bit more proactive. ask for exactly what Chris did with us. Chris goes, I need to learn a lot more about Steer. So I literally set up a call with him the next day and went through everything with him. And he was like, oh, I didn't know about this. I didn't know about that. And then I had him look at some reports, and then he's like, whoa, and I was like, let's turn some of this on. So we did that. But I think to his point is, you don't want to drink from a fire hose, like ease your way into it. And I think, yeah, every 4, 5, 6 months, check in with your company to make sure you're using the platform correctly. There could be really cool updates that you don't know about, but I think it's really important to carve out maybe an hour, 2 hours out of your schedule every few months to really look at the technology, whatever it is that you're using. But specifically with CRM, reach out to the support, because a lot of the CRM companies out here have amazing support. So,
I think the concern that a lot of people have now when they hear about things like CRMs and DVIs and shop management softwares and all of that is there is definitely such a thing as software fatigue or subscription fatigue. I know that in my business, oh my gosh, the number of subscriptions to various softwares that we have, it's mind blowing. But I think that there's that, and part of it is the fear of having to learn these softwares and implement these softwares and manage these softwares on a day-to-day basis and all of that. Now, to those of you who are listening, I will tell you, if you do not have a CRM, it is an investment that you need to make. Whether you're having software fatigue or not, this is one of those things that it is absolutely well worth it. But to those people who have these concerns like this, how do how do the CRM companies, in your case, in the case of Steer especially, how are you making it easier for people to implement and manage and all of that, this product?
So we just added in, and we had a lot going on last year with the transition from Mechanic Advisor to Steer. It was really tough getting all of our customers to move to a new platform, adopt a new platform. So there's been a lot of moving parts. It's been challenging, but I think we're in a good spot. We just added in a software called Pendio. And I just learned about this a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, what's this little question mark over this feature? And you could click on it, and it gives you all the details of that feature, how to use it. We do have live support too, so I think that's really important for a CRM company to have live chat support, or somewhere where you can get someone to call you right away if you have questions. But Pendio has been amazing. Actually, I don't know if it was Chris that you noticed it, but we were on a podcast with Travis from Honest Wrenches last week, and he was talking about just how amazing that this feature popped up to let me know about this new feature in Steer with text alerts. He goes, I wouldn't have known that unless it popped up, and that was Pendio. So any other software companies that might be might be watching this podcast, definitely check out Pendio. But having programs like that within the software that are very customer friendly, but keep customers updated, I think is really important. But again, just having that live support and someone that'll pick up the phone and call you right away to walk you through when you have problems is something that I think has really helped us get to where we are today and then moving into the future.
Chris, I'm sure that you feel that same thing as a repair shop owner. How was it for you, when it came time to implement? And also, how long was it between the time that you implemented a CRM and you started seeing actual results from using it?
So the fatigue is definitely a real thing. And I think it's not just the fact that there's so many programs, but there's also so many different brands. And Greg and I talked about this because I think it was, I can't remember which, I think it was Vision. I was doing a live stream and people wanted demos, and he was like, not every CRM is going to work for everybody. And that's what I constantly tell people is do demos. I know that we don't like demos. I'm not a fan of demos, of like trying something out, especially when you've got so much stuff going on. But I can tell you for sure, if you sign up, just do a little bit of research to find what ones you're most interested in, set up demos with those, and then you can make your decision from there. That was a big part of it. And now that most every single software out there integrates with each other. So it just makes it so much more seamless. And so like all of my stuff that I have all integrates together, and it just makes it super easy for me. I always say it's like adding other people in your shop when you put these programs in place and utilize them correctly. It's like having another person in there doing work and making you more efficient. How long was it? It wasn't very long, but I honestly don't know the exact time because I've been with Steer for over 2.5 years. I was one of their first beta people on Steer when they switched from Mechanic Advisor. But it was just the Google reviews alone for me within the first few months was a huge benefit. I jumped like almost 50 reviews within like 6 months or less. So that was a huge part of it for me. And then you can actually track on a good CRM, like how much return you're getting, like how much you sell on declined repairs, how much you're selling on a reminder, like people can schedule directly from that. And then it gives you that data within the platform itself. So I don't utilize it as much as I should, but I've checked it and the number is very, very large. So that to me is worth it in itself.
I have a lot of new customers coming over from the Quick Lube side now with our partnership with Mobile One, and again, a lot of them, a lot of these shops aren't doing anything for customer retention. They're kind of just slapping stickers in the windows and just hoping customers come back. So it's amazing that we can offer now texting to their customer database, because a lot of these shops I'm talking to, they're like, I've never really thought about texting my customers. So it's like I'm stepping back in 2017 in the auto industry, which is exciting. But with these shops, what we're seeing is probably 2 weeks for them to give us that customer wow moment, right? So they're like, oh my God, I just got 20 Google reviews in a week. They're like, that text blast brought in $8,000. And I'm just like, so I like to tell customers, if they're not doing anything for customer retention, we can prove our value literally in 2 weeks, because we start turning some of these things on and we're celebrating reviews with the customer. We're checking in with them to be like, that last campaign, we're tracking about $8,000. Is that correct? They're like, yeah, we were slammed last week. We saw like 13 appointments come through. So what I like to say is you can get that customer wow moment in a couple weeks, or sometimes it might be 2 to 3 months out to really feel it. But if you're not doing anything, 2 weeks definitely you'll feel the impact of a CRM.
So what's coming down the pipeline? I know you don't want to let any kind of secrets out or anything, but like the things that all CRMs are are working on or wanting to implement. What are the things that the industry can look forward to in the next couple of years with CRMs?
So some of the stuff that I know we're working on is we are really trying to improve the scheduling, specifically with some specific integrations that we're working with right now, that we're really excited about at Steer. So scheduling is a big piece of it. I know we touched it a little bit, but like, you really need to own scheduling as a CRM, because again, you're tracking marketing, where customers are coming from. That's the first touch point, is scheduling. So we're doing a lot on the scheduling side, doing a lot of research in the industry of who we should be working with. So we're excited about that. Some voice over IP connectivity too. So we are talking to some VoIP customers to basically integrate the CRM potentially with some VoIP companies. I do think I mentioned HubSpot a little bit at the beginning. I do think to be a complete CRM, you should have some HubSpot capabilities. So like notes on customer, like detailed notes on customer tasks. So you talked a little bit about when things were slow, you pick up the phone and call them. Like, that shouldn't go away. So there should be some integrations there coming out in the future. And again, just putting this all into the CRM. The other piece that we are working right now, that we've been working on for years, is telematics. So we've teamed up with Mogio and a couple of other telematics companies. So there's a lot of connected cars out on the roads today, specifically fleet vehicles. So a lot of these shops that work on fleets, we're hoping to be able to tap into those vehicles and let the shop know in real time that, hey, this truck's driving around with a check engine light, or the tire pressure monitor system showing that this front left tire is low, fuel level oil levels. Like there's so much data that we can do now, and it's progressed quite a bit over the last 3 to 4 years. So that's something I think that's excited in the CRM space, and I think a lot of CRMs will probably take advantage of, but something that we are literally working in the background with some of our shops that have a lot of fleet accounts that we're excited about. They can basically be superheroes for their fleet customers by really detecting what's going on in that vehicle throughout the day. So
Yeah, you mentioned HubSpot, and when it, as a marketer, the thing that I love about HubSpot is being able to see the customer journey and the past interactions that they've had with you and all of that through all of the various marketing channels. And I mean, I'm of the opinion that there's a lot of really good CRMs out there on the market. So I'm fairly agnostic when it comes to, like which one. I mean, we definitely
right.
know that there are some that are better than others, but when that CRM company goes all in, especially on the marketing side, to be able to truly track the customer journey and to to be able to see the interactions through the website and the email and the digital advertising and the social media and all of these things. At that point, I'm going to have a favorite. I'm just saying, hint, hint. But
I'm with
I
you.
love what HubSpot does from that end. I think it's an amazing product.
We use HubSpot. I don't know if Shop Marketing Pros uses HubSpot, but we use all their modules. So I think taking some ideas from them would be a really strong idea for us.
Yeah, for sure. We actually use a product called High Level, but yeah, HubSpot is probably the king,
Yep.
when it comes to what you're talking about there. Chris, what as you look ahead, how do you plan to further utilize your CRM?
So I plan to further utilize it by hiring someone to take over and take a deep dive into it. So someone in this podcast recommended a book to me that really woke me up, and so I'm really focusing on passing a lot of these things off because, to be quite honest, obviously with it just being me, it's hard for me to really dig deep and dive into some of these programs and utilize every single piece of information because there's a lot in it. You can utilize it. Actually, the class at Vision, was it Vision? STX, I'm sorry, really opened my eyes because I didn't realize there was just so much data points and analytics that you could use that I should be using. So that is my plan.
Now you can't tell them that you heard about this book and not tell them what the book is.
The book is called Buy Back Your Time, and Brian recommended it to me. And,
So
it's an eye opener for sure. I recommend it to everyone.
yeah, yeah. So I guess we'll kind of close out and go into some last thoughts. Kim, unless you have anything.
Oh, my last thoughts. Yeah, I actually, my last thought was more of a question of, are there any, and maybe this, you can include this, Chris and Greg, in your last thoughts, is I'm wondering, as if a shop owner listener, are there any mistakes that either you made, Chris, or Greg, you experienced, like the top mistakes that shop owners make when they first decide to jump in and use one of these pieces of software? Is there something we can tell shop owners, hey, don't forget about this? I learned this the hard way, but you don't have to.
Yeah, so some of the mistakes I made for sure are over texting. I think in the beginning, I should have just paid attention to a little bit more of that and just backed a couple things off. You kind of get gung ho in the beginning stages, and you're like, "Oh, this is awesome," and you want to utilize everything. But it's okay to back a few things off, and as well as my campaigns, like especially if I was having slow day campaigns or whatnot, I did not put any sort of end to the campaign. So if I was trying to bring people in, there was no sense of urgency, so I didn't see any results from it hardly at all. Or the results, I'd send it on an afternoon and then not hear anything back for 3 days. Versus if you send a text campaign and say, we have some openings on the schedule, we're running a special, whatever the case may be, until appointments are filled, this is available, something of that nature. I highly recommend doing something like that, and then also not creating some sort of list, some sort of filtered list was a big one for me as well, because now I just filter out all the people that I don't want to send it to, and it just makes it really easy for me.
Perfect.
And then I actually have a question for Greg, if that's okay, to add to his final thoughts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So people constantly, like, not people, companies are constantly trying to innovate, but one of the things you see in a lot of these groups and stuff is people complaining about issues and features. So what should a CRM look to do to make sure that they take care of the current issues while also innovate at the same time? Because innovation's great,
Yep.
but if you lose sight of the current, technical issues or whatever the case may be, then you really have some serious troubles.
Yeah. So I think it's just constantly asking for feedback from our shops. So we have something called like the CX Council. So it's about 5 or 6 of our top shop owners that use our program that we basically meet with every couple months to really check in, get a pulse of what Steer's doing. We also send out NPS scores every month or two, or I'd say probably quarterly, maybe. And we are watching our score improve, which is great. So being able to track, if customers are happy with your product, how likely are they to refer it to another shop? But again, just listen to feedback. I think what's good too is being networked with a lot of shop owners that are in these Facebook groups. So being friends with them online, like we can hear what they're saying, like just being self-aware, I guess, of how you and your team are doing, and then being able to share that with leadership is really important. But I know a lot of my other friends in the industry that are in these groups, like we're all listening, and I think that's really important that we are involved in these groups and we are listening to customers and we do take it to heart. I know shop owners. I think someone was talking about it in the Changing Industry podcast group yesterday about how they lost sleep over a review. Happens to us too. Like happens to me. If any type of negative feedback or a customer leaves, we want to learn why. We've also implemented our customer success team is pretty large, but we have a new VP of customer success that came from a really large company that was super successful. Tyler Wunderlich, shout out. He actually, his family is part of the Wunderlich tests for the NFL. Yeah, which is interesting. But he's opened up our whole entire eyes onto how to really dive into the customer, get customer feedback, that whole entire customer success journey. But a lot of it is feedback from customers. It needs to be a continuous loop. And leadership and anyone who has to do with the product has to listen to it. They can't just go SaaS best practices, which whenever I hear that from a company, I'm just like, oh no. I'm like, our industry is different. You really have to listen to the customer. And then Kim, just to answer your question, I guess, and it goes back to kind of what Chris was talking about, like you really do need to, if you're going to invest in the software, invest your time into the software. So a lot of shops sign up, they'll do a quick onboarding, and then we don't hear from them. We'll check in with them, but they don't want to do anything. I think the biggest thing, like the biggest failure you can make when you do sign up for almost any software is not taking the onboarding seriously or checking in every few months to see what's new with the product. So I think that's probably my biggest takeaway of this podcast today, is any software, especially your CRM, just make sure you are interacting with the team, getting updates, learning what's new, asking, am I doing this right? Because hopefully, we'll tell you yes or no. We'll look at the data and we'll make decisions from there.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's so interesting how the human mind works, and it's the same way with marketing. We'll have people sign up and they're all excited, and they're going to work with us and send us pictures and videos of what's happening in their shop and all that, so that we can create things with it. And then they get that dopamine hit from signing up, be it for marketing or for a CRM or whatever, and then it's like they're done. When you commit to doing something, you need to understand that as soon as you do it, once you implement it, you're going to feel like you're done, but you're not. It just started. To actually get the results that you're looking for, when you sign the dotted line, that's when it all starts. So know that's going to happen. and commit to seeing the thing all the way through. So, well, thank y'all again for being guests. Y'all brought a lot of value. Greg, if somebody wants to find out more about Steer or get in touch with you directly, how should they do that?
SteerCRM.com. I think there's call to action buttons all over the place. If you if you book a demo, that's a good way to do it. But you can always email me as well. So Greg with 2 G's. So I think you can see it on my name, Greg. GREGG at SteerCRM.com. You send me an email if you're an existing customer or new customer, you want to talk CRM, I'm always open to talk.
And Chris, we didn't really talk about this. We've had you on previous podcasts, but you've got this huge social media following. To our listeners, if you're not following Chris, you've got to go follow Chris. But if somebody wants to get in touch with you or follow you, how should they do that?
It's Enright Automotive or Enright Auto on all the social media platforms.
Awesome. And we'll have links in the show notes. So I want to thank our sponsor again, RepairPal, for providing this episode. We could not do this without them. Remember, we are just one of many podcasts on the Aftermarket Radio Network. You can find the others at aftermarketradionetwork.com. We hope you'll listen in again next week. And until then, go fill those bays.